Okay, so welcome back to Your Luminous Life, the podcast. I've got Casey here today, and I am really, really excited for this conversation. So, Casey is a certified holistic nutritionist and life coach, and she lives in Northern California. She runs her practice, Your Case for Wellness, where she offers private and group coaching services. Casey focuses on working with women who are ready to stop the yo-yo struggle and finally make peace with food in their bodies. She helps women to learn to eat in a way that promotes overall health and wellness. So welcome, Casey. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. We were chatting so much beforehand and we're like, oh, we need to start recording now. So I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Switching gears.
Yeah.
So obviously, I can see what you do now, but I want to know, first of all, what is your story and how did you end up doing this? Because I think when we get these divine callings, it's usually something we've had a big experience with ourselves.
Yeah. So I grew up in a household where obviously I heard diet culture lingo, but it wasn't something super pervasive. I'm lucky to have a mother that, embraced having whole foods and treats and not putting limitations on me. However, I was in high school. I was going into my junior year of high school, and I was in a summer program, a community service program abroad in Ecuador, actually. And I started to notice the girls around me weren't finishing food on their plate. I started to question, I was like, should I not be finishing the food on my plate? And I just slowly started trying to control it. And I came back from this trip. I had always been small. I was very active. I ran all 3 seasons of track cross country. So I came back though, and I had lost weight, and I started to get comments and notice. And this came also, mind you, I was a very late bloomer. So I didn't really get comments and attention on my body much before. And so I was finally getting that type of attention, and it fueled a spiral.
Felt seen.
Yes, 100%. I felt seen. And it was at a time in my life, it's interesting because a lot of these things develop when people feel a lack of control. And so some people say, I don't get it. Like, things are going well in my life. And for me, it was actually, I was getting the best grades I ever had in school. I had the best group of friends. It was yet another thing I could control.
Okay.
And so then this continued, it persisted. In college, it got a little bit more, even more extreme. And it then got to a point where I was like, my body wasn't able to handle anymore. My hormones were not able to keep up with this type of restriction. And I started to get really intense cravings. And so I would overeat and then get really upset at myself and restrict. And I started down this yo-yo cycle. I was trying every single diet. I was tracking my calories. I was getting angry at myself. Starts on Monday, starts this, do this, only juice. I should do vegan. I low carb, like everything I would try. I researched for hours and hours online, like 1,000-calorie workouts and low calorie recipes, just crazy. And
had anyone noticed at this point, by the way?
Yeah, people noticed, people knew for a while, and it was almost part of my identity. And so it wasn't even something that people were trying to intervene. I had friends who tried to intervene, and I will say that when you are trying to intervene, it was like 2 of my friends came up at once and kind of locked me in a room. And it was, I know that I'm still friends with these girls. And so I know it came from the goodness of their heart. But if you see someone that is struggling, the thing is that they need to come to it on their own. Nothing is going to change unless they want it for themselves. So the best thing that you can do is not accuse someone, but be there as a friend and have a conversation with them one-to-one, never do 2-on-1, do in a comfortable setting, whether it's going for a walk, something like that makes them feeling more comfortable. And just say, I'm here for you as a friend, and leave it open-ended. Don't say you are doing this, you are doing that. Saying, I've noticed some things and I don't know what's going on. I just want you to know I'm here for you. So kind of a side note there. I always recommend that because I've gotten asked that question honestly a lot. But I then started to gain weight to a degree that was really uncomfortable in my own body. And I just felt so at war with my own body, with my emotions. And I was just like, if I only could restrict like I used to. So I really had this struggle for almost a decade. And it wasn't until I realized like I need to clearly stop dieting, but I don't know what the solution is. So I dove into intuitive eating. And for those of you who are not familiar with intuitive eating has 10 main principles. It's really about getting rid of the diet mentality, listening to your body, and understanding what you need to like fuel your own body. But it's less focused on the food itself. It's more focused on emotions. And again, just like getting rid of the dieting. So this was very helpful for me to repair my relationship and emotions with food in my body. And I worked actually with an intuitive eating dietitian.
Okay.
However, I was still struggling because yes, I didn't feel like there was all these foods off limits, and I wasn't as obsessive about food in the same way, but I still wasn't feeling my best. And so it was once I really dove into the holistic nutrition path, which is understanding how I could not just be not scared of food, but use food to fuel my body and to feel nourished and to feel energized, to have balance my hormones and my blood sugar, to feel healthy, to restore my period because I didn't have a period. All these types of things. It wasn't just about, okay, gaining weight or like losing excess. No, it was about so much more than that, which really fueled me to go back, get my I have multiple nutrition certifications. And then eventually I get my life coach certification because of the impact I saw of your mindset. I say it all the time. It's like food isn't probably less than even 50% of it. It's so much more our mindset around food, how we feel, our environment when we eat our food, the labels we put around food, the why we put around food. And the thing is that for me, intuitive eating really fell short of allowing me to feel just intuitive eating on its own. Some people it works great for them and that's awesome. Yeah. But I have many clients who come to me who are like, I've been weight shamed, or excuse me, not weight shamed. They have been shamed for wanting to lose weight by intuitive eating professionals. And,
right. Okay.
And so it's for me, I never focus on weight loss with my clients. Most of my clients want to lose weight, but I'm never like, what do you weigh? We're never doing weekly check-ins. We focus on all the other amazing aspects of health. We focus on working on their boundaries, working on their confidence, working on blood sugar balancing meals, feeling satisfied, their relationship with food, getting rid of the guilt and shame, the stigma, all of that.
The people in their lives, I bet, the people who are
the boundaries,
energy.
The pushers, the energy. And the energy that they have to give their self and the self-care they prioritize. I work with so many moms who are like, I don't have time to give anything myself. I'm like, you need to give these 5 minutes of self-care, because when you start feeling a little bit better in yourself, you take that 5 minutes to put that gel in your eyebrows and some lipstick or whatever, or say those affirmations. Obviously, I'm not a makeup person, so I don't even know what to say there.
No, but that's a great point, because particularly for moms, that is the constant story. I don't have time to put myself first. No, you need to. What's that phrase about? There's something about you have to put your own life jacket on first. You'll sink first, or your own face mask on. Whatever the
And no, I love that you say that, because I find the countless, it's all the moms come to me, they're never putting themselves first. And we focus on ways, obviously, I'm not saying you have 2 hours of a day to do, the meditation and the walk and the whatever. No, but how can we prioritize certain things? And also, how can we prioritize ways for you to be able to eat that your kids enjoy too, and your partner enjoys? It makes better relationships for you and your partner, for your kids. And it's crazy how taking that 5, 10, 20 more minutes, whatever that is that you think may be quote selfish, ends up helping you to feel better. And then therefore you can feel like you're a better mom. And honestly, your kids are happier too, because you're happier.
Yeah.
But basically though, really being able to understand that focusing on health first, and then the weight loss comes, the aesthetics come, but never having that be the main focus, and never putting, like, pun intended, our weight and our worth in that number that we see, when we are so much more than that. However, also validating that there's nothing wrong with wanting to change your aesthetics, but we just need to have a deeper why.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
And do you find because in the work that I do, I find sometimes when people are wanting to lose a little bit of weight, that often when they clear out some energetic baggage, there is, and I experienced this earlier, 7, 8 years ago, when I really, really started to work on, I was really depressed inside. I really was. And when I really started to look at that and empowered myself and really looked at the choices I was making and who was in my life, as I started to change that, I actually also started to lose weight, because really it comes back to what you were saying. I was prioritizing myself. I was reconnecting with myself. And you talk about, you said at the beginning, we have to reconnect with the body. How do you get people to do that?
So I love how you bring up the energetics and energy, because the energy that we have when we are eating food and how we feel about our body affects everything. So just going into, if you go into a meal and if you feel a negative energy towards the food you're eating, that literally on a biological level affects how you digest it. And when you digest it improperly, you don't absorb the nutrients properly. You don't get as satisfied from the meal. When you're not as satisfied from the meal, you're likely to overeat later, right? So we can see how this is all affected. And something that I will work on with clients a lot is getting ourselves in a mental space where we feel empowered through nutrition and feel empowered that we can change. Because so much of what we've been taught through diet culture is you have to hate your body enough. And when you hate your body just enough, then you're going to somehow magically change. And that's just not how it works. The more you hate your body doesn't mean the more weight you're going to lose. And instead I use the word empowered a lot, because if you can feel empowered to change using it, and I love working, I always work, the biggest I'll do is a small group of women, but most of my clients are like one-on-one. And why I love being able to work in a small setting is because we all have different ways that we click and that we work. So for some women, it may be meditating and journaling and me being able to assist in that way. Or I have a client who was like so not into any of like the quote woo-woo stuff. And we had her doing affirmations and she's like, I don't know about this. And she was like, she's like, oh my God, this changes my entire day. It changed my entire trajectory. She's so happy. She came, I remember our first call. She was like, honestly seemed kind of pissed. I was like, you're pulling me, girl. So I don't know, whatever. And it's crazy looking now at her check-ins and looking now at our conversations, because she just is like, my mental frame of reference, it completely changed, because I wake up feeling positive and I feel like I have agency over my body, versus before she just felt like every day she was slow, she was lethargic, she was unhappy, she didn't have things to look forward to. And it only took a matter of weeks for her to flip. And obviously then from a matter of weeks, then it becomes more, gradually you add on more and more. And we very often think, I'm going to start this new diet plan, I'm going to change everything about my nutrition, about my exercise, about my mindset. And like, that's great that we think that, but
not sustainable.
Exactly. And there's actually a benefit to having smaller steps, because you have things to work towards. The funniest thing,
and then you can feel happy and celebrate.
Yes. Oh, and the dopamine that you get, which is our, as a hormone, our reward hormone. When we get dopamine, those feelings helps us to feel more motivation to want to accomplish more. And it's funny because women will come to me and will be like, I'm embarrassed by like the food I'm eating, whatever, when they talk to me at first. I'm like, that's why I'm here. Why else are you working with me? If you felt like everything you were doing was perfect, what the heck did you hire me for? Right.
Yeah.
I definitely lead with a lot of, I'm a sassy person. I'm very open and honest. I definitely curse. And I think that that's something that,
well, it's really real.
And that's really sterile, the environment. It's either like have peace with your body and this and that. And it's like, I love if that works for you and that's awesome. But the clients that work with me, that's not what's working for them.
Yeah.
Some of them are on the more spiritual end. Some of them, are very much not, but it's not about like one was right versus the other. It's about finding your balance. And that's, again, what's so missing in the space is like, you keep thinking that you need more rules because I know you, like, for example, you were a collegiate athlete. So you're very used to, and you went to a prestigious university. You're used to like having these set rules and like, I need to follow this. And also when you're on a team, whether, or you've literally, if you've ever gotten a grade in your life, which I think everyone has,
Yeah.
or you're used to, you put your own success and your determining of whether or not you're good or not into someone else's hands.
Absolutely. And we spoke about this obviously before we started recording. That was what happened. I was either in or out, depending on a weight. And it was put up on a screen and it was black or white. I either hit the weight or I didn't. And if I didn't, I was out.
Yep.
And that was what I learned. It was net, and actually the things that I was really talented at. So the psychology that I used with the athletes, the way the line I could steer, phenomenal. And that actually didn't get mentioned because the weight wasn't right. And so I never got the celebration ever. And it sticks in your mind. And then it becomes a pattern.
And you think it's a problem with you and a part of you. And again, our weight, like our blood pressure is just something that's so easy to measure. Whereas your happiness or your overall energy levels, like, can we technically put that on a number scale? Of course we can. And that's actually something that can be beneficial, but it's so easy to just go on the scale and be like, oh, guess I didn't do well. Guess I'm bad. Guess I need to lose weight, because it's a numeric number. And again, especially at a young age, we put our determinant of success and we breed ourselves, or we're by society, that we're supposed to look to others to tell us whether we're good or bad. And so that black and white, all or nothing mentality starts when we're young. You didn't get an A? Well, you need to work harder so that they can give you an A, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we use the words of you earn it, but again, you're earning it so someone else can give it to you versus earning it within yourself to feel that. And again, I'm not like, I understand that we need to study as kids and we need to get
that's not,
I'm not trying to make an argument for the education system, but it does.
We'll do that on another one.
We'll do that on another podcast, right? We'll get into that. But it does, it's so important for us to unveil that, because when we start to understand and put together the pieces of why we are the way we are, we can stop blaming ourselves and we can start to rewire. And a big part of what I do with the programming for my clients, the first phase is the unlearning phase. How can we unlearn all the crap that we've learned in our lives? But we also need to be aware of it, that we need to unlearn it, that we need to rewire and relearn and create new habits.
So is that what because this is what I wanted to ask you, is that what you do with basically everyone? You start with unlearning.
Unlearning is a huge, it's just a varying degree of phase, and also like what level and what certain things you need to unlearn. So, some people, it's really the clean plate mentality and what weight is worth, and just the different elements. It's always different elements of diet culture, that weight equals health. And again, most of my clients want to lose weight and we achieve weight loss, but that is never my focus. I'm never saying, what's your weight? Just not. That's not what I do. And it's not what leads to their success. I then get messages. Like I just literally was opening up a message from a client, and she was saying, I've never wanted to wear a tank top and shorts. And now I finally, I'm wearing it. I feel good in it. And I went out to dinner wearing a tank top and shorts and I felt really good.
Amazing.
That's so much more exciting.
So much a bigger win
than her telling me, oh, I've lost X amount. Right?
Yeah. I've lost 5 pounds, but I still don't want to wear the tank top. There's no win then. You've not changed that view of yourself.
Yeah.
So when people come and talk to you, do they typically know what their pattern is? Or does it take a little bit of work for you with them to figure out the pattern?
Such a great question. So most of the women who work with me feel like they've been yo-yoing or kind of trapped in some dieting. Some of them feel like more overeating is a pattern for them. But they recognize to some degree where they felt trapped, or like in the past, they've liked their body only when they've been dieting, or some younger version, or a lot of times they realize I don't know if I've ever been happy with my body. So the thing is while we need to work on the mental standpoint, and that's where, again, a lot of principles I derive obviously through like basics is, aligned with intuitive eating, also my like life coaching expertise. But at the end of the day, it's great to like learn tools to listen to your body, but you're going to keep craving sweets if you're not understanding how to make blood sugar and hormone balancing meals.
Yeah.
So that's how I actually have to teach those in tandem, obviously in bite-sized pieces to start, but it's not like one comes first. They really do come together to start.
Yeah.
Because it's great to be told like you shouldn't diet, but then just to have a free for all with food is not going to make you feel good.
No. And then I guess there's this likelihood of a binge then.
Mm-hmm.
The blood sugar drops and, oh, I can eat anything now. So here we go then. And then I'm assuming we then enter into a cycle of guilt, shame. I messed up. What's the point anyway?
You took the words from my mouth.
Okay. So,
but it's true. No, it's true. It's, you're not eating properly for your body. Because there is, I will say that we shouldn't be labeling all food as good versus bad, but there are better for you and healthier for you foods. Absolutely not. And I don't think that it is serving us smart women to say all food is equal. And that is
it's not serving us. It's
not true.
No, it's not.
But just because it's not equal for your health doesn't mean that you shouldn't eat it.
No. It just means you look at the quantity.
Yeah. And so, for example, I love ice cream. I have ice cream. But the thing is that I know that it's not a health food. So I enjoy it. But I also know that my overall meals aren't going to be ice cream. I'm going to have meals that are balanced of different macronutrients. I make sure that I, for the most part, really try to eat my meals, eat them more slowly, not be as distracted. We want to enjoy our food. We want to be because how can you enjoy your food and feel satisfied if you don't even remember what you ate, right?
And I think this is a big one for the mamas, right? Mm-hmm. This is a big one. Grabbing bits of food off their kids' plate. This would happen to me before my cancer diagnosis, which was really where I was like, I am coming last here and I got to come first. And that was what would be happening. I would be sorting everybody else out. And then I would think, oh my God, and I would know what I was going to eat. And it would have been, it was going to be a really nourishing meal. And because I went too long, because I was prioritizing everybody else, I would end up just eating what was on their plates, standing up, typically while holding someone and playing with a toy. And I wouldn't even, you're completely right. Now you're saying it, and I wouldn't remember what I'd eaten. And it didn't do anything for me.
And it didn't make you also probably were more distracted versus and how did that affect you as a mom? Obviously, I'm definitely not mom shaming anything, whatever, but you know what I mean? Yeah.
100%. And also because I'm really passionate about the way my children see food and what we eat within our home. And actually, what are they seeing? What are they seeing when that's how their mom eats? But we're wanting to instill, okay, let's sit and let's enjoy and let's listen to our cues. Well, you're not doing that, Mom. So it's like I bet what you do has a real knock-on effect for families.
Absolutely. Because when we can focus on family meal times, when we can focus on restoring relationships in that way, because food can be a celebration. When you think that, okay, I'm on a diet, so I can only have the chicken and broccoli and my kids are going to have just the mac and cheese, it's not helping your kids and it's not helping you. Again, I know there are picky eaters and people are going to say whatever, but there's a way that I show how we can be able to maybe have a fusion of meals or like make you not be crazy or have your kids get involved with food so that it's an enjoyable process versus just like, get out of the kitchen, mom needs to whatever. And right. Yeah. And then versus like, and again, I get that there's a whole different spectrum. And people are like, you don't know my life. But the thing is that why are you listening? If you heard what I just said, and you're like, she doesn't understand. My question is, why are you being so defensive of that too?
It's something to look at.
yeah, I recognize I don't understand everyone's individual, unique life, not working with them. But at the same time, instead of thinking defensive and no, this has to be the way, let's use this information as, oh, this is expansive.
Yeah.
Maybe this is something I could look into.
This
How
is
can
an
I
opportunity.
exactly, how can I adapt that into my life instead of this black and white thinking, right? And, we want things to be inspirational versus this is what I also see as a problem on social media. It's like we can take things instead of just as inspiration and be like, that's something we can add into our life, growth mindset. We take it as, I just need to compare and I'm worse than that person.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I know everyone says this, but what people are showing on social media is not real most of the time. So then we're comparing ourselves to a set up scenario.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I really try to be, like open and honest on my Instagram. But like, obviously, I'm not going to show everything. That just doesn't make sense. I don't want to show my entire life on social media. I try to have a balance of things.
Yep.
But little things like, I'm not going to show every single plate and then exactly what I eat of it. I eat most things on my plate, but like there's times when I leave food on my plate. And so don't compare yourself, whatever. And there's sometimes then I eat more. And I have to have a snack a half an hour later because I didn't eat enough. Right?
Because that's
so
this as a cycle as well. Just not enough spoken about times you are just far more hungry. And we need the food. And if people are eating the way you're saying they're used to tracking calories, for example, they're going to be undernourishing their body, like pre-period, for example, right? They're just,
yeah.
So if someone is listening right now and they're thinking, okay, this sounds like me, right? This sounds like me. What exercise can they sit and do first to help themselves? Where can they start on their own and action something today that will move them a bit forward?
I love this question. So the first thing that I would do is I would create a food journal, but not necessarily about what you're eating, but about the environment in which you are eating. So before you're eating, how are you feeling? And post what you're, and then write like maybe roughly what you're eating. And I'm not saying like, I ate 2 tablespoons. No, we're just saying like whatever, like, and how fast it took you to eat that meal and then how you feel after. This can provide tremendous insight. The environment in which we are eating in, the speed in which we eat, our emotions prior to eating can greatly affect what our food choices are. Do this for 3 days. See what insights come.
Right. Okay.
I definitely suggest along these lines for 1 full minute before eating, put your hands on your belly and take deep belly breaths. This helps to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest state, so that you could better digest your food. And I suggest setting a timer for 20 minutes and trying to eat for a full 20 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's good.
You'll be pretty crazy. I bet you're only you. And I'm not saying you specifically. But
no, I know, but
it probably takes 5 minutes for you to eat, maybe. Sometimes.
Yeah.
And so this also, I want to say this all, it's not about guilt or shame. It happens. Sometimes we eat fast, but let's think about how can we use our 5 senses when we're eating to experience our food and not be distracted. So what do we see? What do we smell? Obviously, what do we taste? What do we hear? Like, what are the textures of our food? This can really help us to slow down, because when we have more appreciation in our food, when we notice the food we're eating, it allows us to be able to enjoy our food and appreciate it more and be more satiated from it. And my point isn't always like, okay, don't finish your plate because you're satisfied, because sometimes you actually do need more food, but sometimes you don't fully need what's on your plate. But if you're not paying attention to your food, how the heck are you going to enjoy it? And I always said this earlier, how the heck are you going to enjoy it or be able to stop when you're full? So that is really important. I know I also have resources that I gave you that you're going to share with your audience.
Tell us about them. Tell us about them.
So I have my Stop Overeating guide. So a great guide for you to understand why you may be overeating in the first place, some practical tools, tips, worksheets for you to kind of dive deeper, I'm all about, as you can understand, for understanding your root cause, not just putting a band-aid of like, let's try a 20-day detox, because that's
Yeah.
not what's going to solve your problems long term. And then I also have my video of my top 3 nutrition tips to help you as well, so that you can be able to feel, again, like empowered by your nutrition. Because at the end of the day, you constantly searching for someone else's strategy is just getting you further and further away from finding it within yourself.
Yeah. And this is absolutely what I'm loving about this conversation is this is the same journey that I take people on. It's just with a different thing we're working on. It's really about connecting back to what do you need, not what are you told, not what is trendy.
Yeah.
You know, not what do you really, really need? And what are the habits and the behaviors that you've got that can kick you back, which is obviously this patterning you're talking about. So when people work with you, how long could it take for them to change some of this?
So
That's a hard question.
No, it's good. So the shortest program that I run is 2 months, but generally for private, it was 2 months, but now I've transitioned because I really find 3 months is a magic mark. We noticed change before, but 3 months is a lot of time that allows things to solidify and for you to really create rewired habits so you can feel good and confident for the next stage of your journey. So I find that it's also helpful because like 30 days, like you can do kind of anything in 30 days and then maybe pushing 60, but that 90 days of being able to be in a container where you can also, the point isn't like, this is 90 days to never F up. It actually is helpful if you kind of mess up a little bit.
Yeah.
And when I say
learn,
I have another client who was like saying to me today that she was upset because she kind of felt like she wasn't in as much of her routine. And she I'm literally reading, she goes, I hit a bit of a rocky patch for 2 days last week, but was able to quickly bounce back and feel better than before. And she was saying how she was like, my habits are becoming more natural. I think learning from my mistakes was huge last week because I see how it's already affecting how I feel. So it made me want to stick to the habits even more.
Yeah. So and she's building resilience.
Yeah. I'm literally just read this from what a client was from me.
Oh my God, what a good win.
And so it's, so many people think, and whether like the dieting again, we got that black or white all or nothing mentality. It's like, I have to be on it. And my job is to, yes, like obviously I want you to be feeling consistent, but it's about also the big part of it is me teaching you how to teach and coach yourself too.
Yeah.
So once you're not working with me, you can get yourself out of the mental effery. The mental, that mindset that we get ourselves in and the negative self-talk.
It's like a cycle, isn't it? You start to just spiral.
Absolutely. And that negative self-talk is what is absolutely leading you to continue down these negative spirals. Because if you quote unquote messed up, right? And you said to yourself, okay, like what can I learn from this? I'm like, how can I improve? Then you grow stronger.
Yeah.
If, however, you say, wow, I'm a piece of shit. I can't believe I did this. What ends up happening is you just feel more negative about yourself. And what do we often do to self-soothe when we feel bad? More negative self-behaviors, whether it's drinking, eating, or just more negative self-talk or other things. Maybe we don't feel like we're worthy to go out and socialize with friends. We do this. We get into the cycle of more negative behaviors.
And then it's like the person you were saying about, she didn't wear the tank top. So then you don't feel, if it's that, you don't feel good. You don't feel good about yourself because you don't wear things that you feel good in.
Exactly.
The cycle.
Exactly.
And I think a really good point here is to expect, and again, this is the same as what I have to remind people of as well, is these these behaviors didn't occur in 30 days or 90 days or 60 days. These are, ingrained, and it's going to take a little bit of nice time and being gentle with ourselves to change it. And that's okay. It can be done. And we have to be, it's like reparenting ourselves a little bit. Because do you find a lot of people have got, obviously yours was teens, right? Do you find most people's comes from childhood, the patterns they're bringing in? Or is it teens? What would you say?
Oh, it really ranges. So I find a lot of patterns start from childhood with not trusting our body, with the finishing the food on your plate, the things to appease mom and dad, or like hearing things that you heard from parents or adults when you were little in terms of diet culture or bodies. A lot of being picked on at a young age, starting from elementary school, or having the stigma of always being the big girl. Or it can be like, for me, I honestly was the small girl. And so I was really, I said at the beginning, I was a very late bloomer. So I was always like, Casey was the tiny one. And now like, I have a lot of friends who are similar. Like, it's not like whatever, but I had this relationship with mentally, like, I need to be the small one.
It was the identity. You had an identity. Yeah.
Yes. So I find it could be young age. I could find like a lot of times, especially with like American university culture. That's just what I can speak to, because I did study abroad in Denmark. But obviously it's a little bit different when you're there for a semester versus experience. But the culture of drinking, the culture of, it's like very typical for people, you save room for alcohol, like that obviously can have a really negative behavior cycle. And then, going later into adulthood, there a lot of now access when you have more of your own disposable income, how that affects what people buy and their purchasing and whatnot, and corporate culture and this and that, and like finding a partner, all of these things. Absolutely. So I think that people are like, well, or sometimes people can justify and say, well, my mom wasn't bad, so like, I don't know why. And then they just place blame on themselves, right? Versus realizing that just because it doesn't mean that your parents were bad people if they told you to finish your plate, or because your mom said like, I'm going on another low carb diet, doesn't mean she was a bad person or a bad mom. But it means that, this is probably one of the many reasons why you are mentally wired the way you are. So we need to acknowledge that.
Yeah, it's a root cause.
Your parents.
We'll just look at it.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's not always comfortable, not always easy.
No.
But it's very, very well worth it to explore these root causes and understand that it is not your fault, but also it will be your fault if you choose not to address it.
Yeah. If you just turn a blind eye to it, then there's, I think there's a really big message here of really it's like self-responsibility, really taking responsibility and saying, okay, now I do know that I'm doing this, and I can do something about this. And what do you do about, do people weigh themselves or not? What's the guidelines there?
So I don't have any requirement for weighing. I do though want my clients to not be scared of their weight either. So sometimes in some communities, it's like, never weigh yourself, never. It's like, I don't want you to be as scared of what your weight is, but at the same time, I want you to realize that your health and your worth are so much more than that. So I have some clients who do weigh themselves like on occasion, and they might report that back to me, and we may that may be a data point, but this is never something that I actively seek out. I am much more focused on how you're feeling in the mirror, how clothes are fitting on you, how are you feeling. But again, like if there are some clients that I need to like step away from the scale because they're weighing themselves too frequently. But then there are some clients that like want to occasionally weigh themselves. And I feel like that's totally cool.
Yeah.
As long as we can use as a data point.
Yeah. It's like, okay, it's been 2 months. It's changed. It's come down a little bit. Great. But there's no real attachment to it.
Exactly. It's like, how can we use this? What can this mean? And then also I have plenty of pregnant clients too that are weighed frequently at the doctor's office. Sometimes they are, unfortunately, and again, I don't know how the medical system is as much specifically with weight gain and pregnancy in every country, but in America, I have found some clients really not treated well for ridiculous reasons for when they're doing very healthily, and it's just it's crazy. And pregnancy, you're often weighed frequently and doctor. And so something I will suggest though is when you're going through this period of rebuilding your relationship with the food in your body, you can ask the doctor to not weigh you.
I did that.
You can also say, please don't tell it to me. And you could close your eyes. Or, and especially I find this can be really good for women who are pregnant, who are like having to get their weight checked frequently. And they're being, it's like every month being checked. You are able to, if you want to weigh yourself at home when you wake up in the morning versus like later in the day when you eat and like worrying about quote, like what that could do, weigh yourself in the morning when you want to, and you can report that weight to the doctor.
Because you're going to be fully
like
clothed and you would
yeah.
have had meals. But I did exactly what you said. I just said, I don't want to be weighed.
Yeah. And I posted about that actually a couple of weeks ago on my Instagram, and someone was saying like, she's like, I felt like such a rebel. I like told my doctor I didn't want to be weighed, and they just didn't even say anything. They're like, okay. Yeah. People just think that they don't have the agency.
Yeah, because you're still getting the measurements. They're still checking the growth,
Of course. But again, we think that we have to have someone else tell us whether we're good or bad or this or that, right? So we get back in this mentality.
I love this. It's just coming right back round to self, really listening to yourself and what you need in the moment, but also what you need for your body.
Yeah.
So
because again,
you've mentioned your coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Type of coaching have you got happening?
Yes. So I have right now available a couple of slots for private coaching, which is one-on-one coaching with me. And I don't know exactly what, do you know the date that this is coming out?
Probably in about 6 weeks, sometime in August, maybe 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks.
Well, then I will have open my newest coaching offer, Healthier Together, which is an option for you to, with your friend, your family member, your coworker that you feel comfortable and confident with, for you together be coached by me. So this allows you to have your best cheerleaders and support system from me and from them. So we can still have a very private, intimate setting, but allows, obviously, private coaching is very high touch, obviously the highest investment level. And this to still get everything private, getting all the messaging from me, our one-on-one calls, but in that session where you also get the benefit of having an even greater support system. So having groups of 2, 3, and maximum 4 people, but all of your choosing. So I'm really excited about this because I've done small group coaching in the past, but people from all over, which is really great. People get to meet each other, but I really wanted to I haven't seen anything like this in the space, and really wanted to be able to create an option for women to bring their own support systems, because I'll have people saying, my friend's going through this too, and I share this and that. And so this just allows you to create your tribe of women and have me to be able to guide you every step of the way.
I love the sound of that. I've not seen anything like that either.
Yeah, I'm really excited about
any wellness area. Oh, okay. Good luck with that. That sounds amazing.
Thank you.
Where can people find you?
Yeah, so the best place to find me is honestly on Instagram. That is where I am the most active. You can find me at Your Case for Wellness. So that's on Instagram. I am on other platforms as well. I have a really great free Facebook community too, where I put live trainings in every single week. So you can get videos of like all information on mental health, as relating to nutrition, like specific nutrition, science-backed topics, like how to create your goals. So much information there.
And they can find that via Instagram, can't they?
Exactly. In my
Okay.
link, I have like a link in my Instagram, so you can find that. And I will say we've just had such a great conversation. I know that the listeners coming from your podcast will be great. So if they want to mention podcast to me, if they are interested in any of my services, they can get $100 off any service, just like mentioning that they came from your podcast.
Oh, amazing. Okay. Well, I will put, so I'm going to put all of this information below. So for people listening, all of this information will be in the show notes. I'm also going to put a link to the 2 freebies, which were amazing. I went through and loved them. So they are well worth doing. Do you want to add anything else about those freebies? Or
I think just like dive in and ask me if you have any questions. I love chatting with people on Instagram. So send me a message. Like my point is not to start coaching you right away. My point is to really answer your questions, create a community. I've met so many amazing women through doing what I do. And I absolutely love to help support you and make you not feel alone. Because I know for so long, I felt so alone. I felt I was the only one struggling. I felt that I would forever be at war with food and my body. And now being in a place where I'm past that, it just feels like I live a whole totally different life. And I want that for all women that I get to work with. So just please don't be a stranger. And as I said, any questions that you have, or just say hi. As I said, pop over to me and in my DMs on Instagram.